previous tutorial, we went over creating a vignette using the compositor here, and we added a bunch of nodes and connected it out and made a little vignette. So let me show you something that is relatively new in Blender 2.57, allowing us to create groups, which makes things a little bit easier, kind of making your own presets. And there's probably better ways to do this, but this is how I'm doing it currently. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Shift-A here, and if I go down to Groups, you'll see that I have one called Vignette now that I made, and I'm going to show you how to create that. So we're going to click Vignette, brings in this, and we've got an input and output image. We're going to take our original image here, connect it to the input of our vignette. We're going to connect it to the output viewer, and also, I guess, our compositor, so we can composite it. And right there, we got our vignette. So a lot quicker than our last one, but the thing is we created last one and then I kind of create a preset out of that by creating a group and saving that somewhere. So, and like I said, there's probably a better way to do this. I'm going to look into it more, maybe do another video on this in the future, but this is how I'm currently doing it. Let me close this Blender out, and here's another scene. This is the scene we created in the last tutorial. And these 4 nodes right here are what we created, lens distortion, the greater than, the blur, for creating that vignette effect. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click here, I'm going to hit Shift and click on each one of these to have them each selected, and then I'm going to hit Shift G. No, not Shift G. Control G. There we go. Control G, which turns it into a node group. So we have 2 inputs and an output here. What we're going to do is we're going to collect this group, and in previous versions of Blender, I guess you could create groups with nodes, but it was very limited to what you can do. In the stable release of 2.57, they've added a lot of features to this. So once we create this group, I can hit Tab to go into edit mode, and I can see our nodes here. I can open them up just like I could before. Now, one thing we can do to make our little group here a little bit easier, or better, easier, is we have 2 image inputs, but in this case, as far as my use, I'm always going to have a single image input because it's both the same image coming in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this image input to the multiply down here where that one already is, and then we don't need this one anymore, so we can close that out. Now we can also rename our group, and I'm going to rename it Vignette. Now I can hit Tab to go out of edit mode, and there is our little vignette group. So how do we create it so that we can import that into a new project? So, because right now if I hit Shift A and I go down to group, vignette's there, but if I open up a new copy of Blender, and I actually have to, give me a second here, new thing of Blender here. If I go down to the compositor and I say compositing, I'll add my nodes and backdrop. If I hit Shift A and go down to groups, vignette's not there. Now I'm sure there's a place that I can throw that group so it automatically shows up each time, and that's something I'll look into in the future and do a video on. Probably should have done it before I did this. But let's close that out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit File, and I'm going to save this video, or this Blender scene. For now, I'm just going to save it in my temp folder, but you'll want to save it someplace where it will be all the time. And I'm just going to call this blend file Vignette. Save blend file as. Okay, so now, if I file new and create a new Blender scene, and I go to the compositor setup, I'll click new, use nodes and backdrop. And I'll hit Shift A and add an output of a viewer, and connect our image to, oh actually we're going to delete this image, that render layer, and hit Shift A and do a new input of image, and choose the video that I want. Once again, I'll just choose that same video of me in my backyard. I'll choose auto cycle, and number of frames, we'll say 100 again. So now we want to add that vignette. I hit Shift A, go down to groups, it's not there, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Shift F1, and I'm going to go to wherever I have that blend file saved, vignette.blend, and then under node tree, I'm going to choose vignette. That's our group that we created in the other blend file, which is what we're looking at right now. And I'll click Link Append from Library. And now if we hit Shift A, we can go down to Group, and hey, there's Vignette. And all we have to do is connect here to here. So once you create an effect like the vignette, once again hit V on your keyboard to zoom out, you can save that as a blend file and then import that group anytime you want as a node, and you don't have to go through the